The reason it was important to me to come and offer some introductory remarks today is that I think that our world faces three existential crises, and I don't use the word existential lightly. And I think those three existential crises are around, one existential crisis is climate change, one is about the inequalities that characterize our world, and the third is about erosion of democratic institutions. And if you think about what we're doing, and being at a university, I think we have a unique opportunity to really take hold of those existential crises and see what can we do to try to change the world around these issues. And if you think about what you are participating in here today, so the first crisis is climate change, right? So you are proactively working to see, not just sort of getting overwhelmed by all of the data on climate change, but saying, what is it that we can do proactively on this campus differently to contribute to a world where climate change is better addressed, right? So first existential crisis, climate change. Second existential crisis, inequalities. I've spent my whole professional life working on issues of environmental justice, and I can tell you that everything that's going on with climate change has a disproportionate impact on low-income and minority communities. So even though it feels like this is just about climate change, I tell you that everything that we do on climate change is also about inequalities. Third existential crisis, erosion of democratic institutions. It would be easy, in fact, it would be easier for us to, sit in some conference room in University Hall and say, here's what we're going to do as a campus. But we make the deliberate choice to say, we are going to bring the community together. We're going to hear as many voices as we can. We're going to welcome those voices into the room, and we are going to decide collectively, democratically, how we want to make and what kinds of climate action commitments we want to make. So being here with all of you, where you are addressing what I believe to be the three existential crises that our world faces right now, through this act and the acts that will continue as we plan, we get drafts of, we get feedback on, and then we eventually roll out a new climate action plan and then implement it. That's just a privilege. It's just a privilege to be in the room with all of you, that you're willing to undertake that work. So thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Miranda. My name is Andy Mitchell. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor and Director of Sustainability, and I am undertaking this with a great crew in my office and in the UIC community. The effort is the Climate Commitment Action Plan 2024. This town hall is really our kickoff for that planning process. The purpose of this town hall, first and foremost, is to get the voices of our community involved in this process. It's going to take 4 to 6 months. This meeting's an hour, but it's just the beginning. I'm going to share tools with you for you to share your voice in the process and how we come up with a 5-year plan for UIC to address our climate commitments. So, with that, here's our brief agenda. Basically, I'm going to give some background, where we've been, where we are, where we're going as a university. That should take 15 or 20 minutes, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Let's get going. Brief history. Okay, I won't give you too much in the way of a history lesson, except to say that we have a really strong tradition of recognizing sustainability and the importance of sustainability here at UIC. All the way back to the placement of our university at the crossroads of, literally the crossroads, as well as access to public transportation so that we were an accessible place for everyone in the Chicago community and beyond. 1970, we had one of the first Earth Day rallies here on campus as a very young university. And from there, fast forward all the way to kind of the early aughts, where in the greater scheme of things, I'm talking about like the water we're swimming in as a university, there was a sea change that recognized the importance of higher ed as models and as leaders in operations. And UIC was no exception to that. My predecessor, Dr. Cindy Klein-Benai, who I think is on the Zoom right now, started the sustainability group at UIC. We worked to establish the first climate action plan. That was '09. It was updated some years later after another chancellor gave us their original climate commitments, which were just updated this summer, all the way up to 2018 when the climate action implementation plan was set. There's a lot of really useful parts of that plan. One that I think is the most prescient is that it acknowledged the need to update our plan every 5 years. That was 2018. This is 23. The time has come. So here we are to update our plan and look forward to the next 5 years. We have, fortunately, these 5 climate commitments that have been fostered and established and really will act as our guidepost and our path forward, which is fortunate. But the question that we have and that is really important for all of you and for all of you tuning in via Zoom and watching this later is, what are we missing here? It's easy to look at these 5 and comment on them, but what isn't in this plan? And that's where my request goes out to everyone to get involved. Go to our website. You'll find the tools there to have your voice heard. Many, many different avenues beyond just this meeting. So Google it, or we'll get to that in a minute. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk through the 5 commitments that we have, and I'll give some highlights, some of the history of UIC and what we've done, our accomplishments, but I'll also share the challenges, because there are challenges. We've come a long way. We have a really long way to go, and there's no reason not to share all that up front. So I'll start with carbon neutral university. So the goal here is to become carbon neutral, which is to say we generate as much energy or emissions as we use in a given year. And we've come a long way since that. We can affect how we generate energy and we can affect how we use it. Since 2009, we have built 7 different LEED gold buildings. LEED is a building standard that stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's administered by the U.S. Green Building Council. It's really, it's difficult to achieve, and we've done it 7 times over. We should be proud of that. We've also installed geothermal energy saving technology. We've installed rooftop solar. We're reducing not just our demand, but also our supply. We're putting in new and exciting technology in other buildings. I kind of geek out on this because I came from energy efficiency technology. So it's really impressive to see UIC embracing some of this. We also have, we've pulled another lever, that is the financial lever, and working with energy service companies. This, I think, is a really exciting way to implement energy efficiency, which can be expensive. But in an ESCO contract, we can partner with a company that will provide the upfront capital to upgrade our buildings, and then we share in the savings of that over the course of the next 10 or 20 years, and when it works, everyone wins. We have challenges. We have aging infrastructure. This whole university was rather built at once in the 60s with 60s technology, and now 50 plus years later, we're coming up on the need to reinvest, and that applies to our buildings, that applies to our central plants, and it's something that we have to look at and plan for strategically. Also, we have urban space limitations. It would be great if we could put up a massive solar installation. I did some quick back of envelope math. We would have to cover every inch of our campus with solar panels to generate enough energy for our campus, which, by the way, wouldn't exist anymore. So you can see that's not going to be the only solution we can come up with. We have limitations on space. There's also market limitations that apply not just to UIC, but to everywhere, and we have to navigate those in a dynamic environment. Okay, next commitment is becoming a zero waste university. Here's a shot of UIC employees back in 2019 doing a great team building day, beautifying campus. I think about 100 people showed up to that event. In addition to that, we have addressed food waste very successfully at UIC. About 30% of our solid waste as a university is food. So if we are going to address that, we have to get our hands dirty, very literally. And a lot of that is going to be from composting. So UIC currently composts back of house food at Student Center East, Student Center West, UI Health, basically the food court at the hospital, and at the Forum. But we have a long way to go to fully address that 30%. We can't just address the waste, we also have to address what's coming in. Another success story is the Student-Run Food Recovery Network. This is a volunteer effort staffed and administered by students, and they've saved 91,000 meals from the dumpster since it was formed in 2014. A really impressive accomplishment. We have effective paper and cardboard recycling. As an economics nerd, I love it because it sort of pays for itself. We break even on that most of the time, and depending on markets. We have challenges too. The global market for recycled plastic is complicated. It's volatile, and we're a part of that global market. We recognize we cannot recycle our way out of plastic waste. Again, that's not unique to UIC, but it's something we'll have to address to meet our commitment. And then campus contamination levels are high. I'll put in a personal plug here, a beseechment to all of you. When you're throwing something in the garbage, just double check if that's the garbage or the recycling. When our recycling bins get contaminated too much, unfortunately that has to be redirected to the landfill instead of recycle. So we have to work on that campus contamination, and we'll do that. Okay, next up, Net Zero Water University. As I take a drink of water. I really like this goal because I think it's really interesting the way we framed it. Here's the concept. We want to use the same amount of water in our operations, that's plumbing, irrigation, food prep, as the amount of natural rainfall on our campus, which is a findable number. We can use historical averages, place that over our footprint, and come up with that number and back into it. And so that's how we established our metrics for becoming a Net Zero Water University. How do we do that? Well, one of the key ways is implementing permeable surfaces. I'll give a brief civics lesson for Chicago. Rain falls. According to Open Lands, a local organization, about 60% of the city of Chicago is covered with non-permeable surfaces. So that water falls, it goes to the sewers. When the sewers overflows, it goes to the river. When the river overflows, it goes to the lake, which is our drinking water. We need to address that. One of the ways we do that is by putting permeable surfaces. So the rain falls and it sinks into the ground, goes up through the trees as water vapor and cools our campus and beyond. We've done a great job with that. We've partnered with national organizations. We've partnered with MWRD, the local water agency. We have also put in low flow fixtures, which save energy and water in all of our buildings. That's an ongoing process. We have $300,000 committed this year and moving forward. But I want to flag also Arthington Mall, which is in the shot here. This is on West Campus. For those of you East Campusers, you got to get over there. It is a beautiful place. It is a plaza right in the middle of the Illinois Medical District. This is a rain garden here, so it's sort of hard to tell in the picture, but there's a depression, and when it rains, the water collects there and slowly percolates through in the ground. There's monitoring equipment next to it. There's native planting there that attracts pollinator species and makes this beautiful oasis in the Illinois Medical District, which I find really inspirational because that can be a difficult place to go to if you're there for personal care or there for a loved one. I think UIC offering Arthington Mall is a great example of the duty of care that we bring to the city of Chicago. So shameless plug, go check out Arthington Mall. Challenges on net zero water. There's low economic incentive. Basically in Chicago right now, water is really inexpensive. So it's difficult to make a financial case for this as we rank order what we should do and when. But keyword there is currently, right? Like the future is uncertain, and water uncertainty is something that is an issue worldwide. We have this perception here in Chicago that it's abundant and always will be, but that's hard to say. So those are some of the challenges on our net zero water goal. All right, moving on. How am I doing on time? Okay, great. Right, biodiverse university. The goal here is for UIC to create a resilient campus landscape supportive of a variety of life, such as plants, animals, and people. Some of the highlights here: we are a certified Bee Campus USA. We are a happy home for pollinators who are traveling an otherwise paved landscape. UIC is a great place for bees and butterflies, and people too. We are Tree Campus USA certified. We provide native plant habitats on East and West Campus. You can check those out at the Engineering Innovation Building, and on West Campus, right outside the School of Public Health in the back, a little prairie on the campus, a little beautiful little installation. We are also a level 2 arboretum, and this is what I am most proud of and really most surprised by. As a university, we maintain over 4,000 trees, in the middle of downtown Chicago. Okay, does anyone know the Latin motto of the city of Chicago? It's on the seal. Oh, we got one, Urbs in Horto, which means city in the garden. We are the garden. I mean, this is like, I'm getting goosebumps. We maintain this arboretum. We have no fences. We have no gates. Anyone can come and enjoy this. We've heard of the heat island effect, that phenomenon where urban spaces heat up faster, and that can have inclement effects on people's health over the long term. We're mitigating that every day with our garden, with our Class 2 arboretum. So a point of pride, and I think a good example of the duty of care we take in the city of Chicago and beyond. Okay, challenges. We mentioned this. We're space limited. We're also an urban landscape. I would love to see more native planting on campus. That would be great, but when we look out the windows, you don't see a native landscape. You see a very unnatural urban landscape. So if we do these native plantings, we have to give them special maintenance, and that takes special resources. Our resources are limited, just like everywhere, and so we need to be intentional about that. Also, just to be real, this university was built on 100+ years of urban detritus. And it looks good now, but in some places the soil is very thin. And underneath that is sort of the prehistory of Chicago. So another thing to keep in mind when trees are planted, when we're creating a biodiverse institution. I want to just go off script for a second, because these peregrine falcons are so cool. If anyone has seen them, they live on University Hall. Yeah, these are yours? Great. They're outside my window. Oh, beautiful. I mean, I find them inspirational and just remarkable. I mean, let me put on my door cap for a second here, my birder. 204 miles an hour they can fly in a flat dive, the fastest land animal in the world. And we had 2 nesting pairs this year. Is that right, Chancellor?
We only had 1 nest there in UIC. I don't know if there's, but the mother and the 2 fledges that survived, the 2 daughters, are still resident around UIC.
Fantastic. A great example. We call this in my world charismatic megafauna, and they are certainly charismatic. They're fantastic birds and our neighbors. I know there's a red-tailed hawk on West Campus too, so not to be left out. Okay, back to business. Our last commitment is transformative scholarship, and basically the goal here is to incorporate or further incorporate sustainability and climate action into academics at UIC and also the student experience. Because scholarship extends beyond the classroom in many ways. So I want to highlight a few of our accomplishments here. Since 2011, we have maintained the Student Sustainability Fund, which is a fund that is allocated from tuition dollars and then administered by students to distribute for projects that are submitted by the UIC community. Students, faculty, staff submit things that they think should be funded. So we've funded refillable water bottle stations, solar-powered trash compactors, electric vehicles, student organizations, research on composting. We've funded a few student travel initiatives to attend conferences. Shameless plug, large projects requests are due this Friday. So check out that website if you have ideas for the Student Sustainability Fund. This also funds the Teaching Sustainability Initiative, which is an effort to incorporate sustainability concepts into classes across the university spectrum. So we've worked with 60 faculty fellows that has incorporated into classes that have reached 3,000 students. A great success story there. In terms of challenges of becoming a transformative scholarship university, we need to determine our path forward. Are we going to emulate other universities? Are we going to chart our own path as we have before? This again was really just formalized as a commitment earlier this summer. So it's kind of a choose your own adventure for us at this point. We don't do this in a vacuum. So I'm through the 5 commitments now. I just want to point out that we have really successful partnerships. I'm rather new to higher education, and what I love about higher education is the transparency and openness between our peers. We work with these partners to inform how we do what we do and so forth. I want to flag the top left logo there, ASHE, the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. They maintain yet another rating standard. I think probably are all catching on that we value that structure. And that is STARS, the Sustainability Tracking Assessment Rating System. And let's see here. The key point of STARS and the effort that we put into it, which is significant, is that it helps us establish a baseline for sustainability. And it tells us not just who we are now, but where we need to go to improve. And that is what I value about STARS. But it also gives us the opportunity to benchmark. So a quick look at the kind of the field that we compare ourselves to. The light blue lines are the peer institutions as designated by the UIC system, and the dark blue lines are our aspirational peers. And you can see that we fall toward the bottom of this list. We're the red line there. But I want to point out something critical. As a STARS Silver rated university, that puts us easily in the top 10% of sustainability efforts among higher education. So in the context of this list, we fall toward the bottom, but writ large across the nation, we are and remain a leader. I just share this as, again, as an example of where we fit in. Right, so that's kind of my update on the background and the story, how we got where we are and where we are. I want to talk about the specifics of the Climate Commitment Action Plan now. And start with why now, just to answer this sort of basic question. I mentioned that the 2018 plan called for an update in 5 years, so we're on time. We have an opportunity to align UIC's climate commitments, and we have new leadership. Chancellor Miranda, it was great hearing your comments about how we will integrate our work into climate justice and environmental justice. It's a great time to rethink this. I want to get basic for a moment. What is a climate action plan? A CAP has become, even since 2018, a common sort of vernacular to describe an organization's approach to this. For us, it's a 5-year plan that will focus on our climate commitments. We are calling it, for now, the Climate Commitment Action Plan, kind of a call it what it is school of thought, but look, we can call this whatever we want. We have the tools on our website to hear your voice. We'll have other opportunities. I would love to hear, we would all love to hear great ideas on what this plan can be called that reflects the voice of UIC. Ultimately, it'll be a living planning tool. Will give us a strategic framework. We want to be actionable. We want to be practical. We recognize things are going to come up in the next 5 years that we'll have to react to. We have a project mission. This is sort of the short version, and I won't read it now, but I'll direct you again to our website where there's resources to have your voice heard. The purpose of this is really to give us parameters. Sustainability is a big issue and it can present big problems. It's hard to put a box around it. Not that we want to do that, but this mission gives us parameters. And fundamentally, we recognize that whatever we do, we need to develop the plan in an inclusive and equitable process. Chancellor Miranda mentioned inequities in the world, and historically, unfortunately, issues of sustainability have often been solved on the backs of marginalized people, and we're going to make a plan that doesn't do that. The mission was written by our steering committee. This is not the Andy Climate Action Plan. This is the UIC Climate Action Plan, and so we sought out a group of people that represent a cross-section of UIC. I won't introduce everyone here, but for those in the room, if you could wave. I see Cam. Dr. Maraskalka, okay, 2 in the room and several others online. But the purpose of this, the steering committee, was to provide input. We also work with the Chancellor's Committee on Sustainability and Energy. This is a group of about 50 people who are subject matter experts across UIC and volunteer their time, their professional time, to influence the course of action we take. The steering committee is great because they give us that sort of outside voice to tell us how this is going to react or how this is going to be received by the university. We also partner with an outside partner called Brailsford and Dunleavy, a national organization that has a lot of experience writing climate action plans. They've done about 100 for universities, municipalities, even sports teams. It's been really great working with B&D, as we call them, and leaning on them for experience and understanding how UIC is common to other university experiences and then where we're unique. So we invited my partner at B&D, Jillian Buchholz, to share a little bit about the process they use. In order to streamline that process, we opted to pre-record Jillian, although she's on the Zoom. So Jillian, you can wave right now. I don't know if you're on camera, but I do have a pre-recorded input piece here from Jillian, which I will play.
Thanks, Sandy. Now I'm going to talk about the process for the Climate Commitment Action Plan 2024. So my name is Jillian Buchholz. I'm the Sustainability Advisor at Brailsford and Dunleavy. We're working on this project with the UIC team in partnership with Interface Engineering. B&D is an owner advisory firm, and our purpose is to inspire and empower organizations to optimize investments in advanced communities. You're working with the Energy and Sustainability team, and we're really happy to be here to work on this really innovative and exciting project with UIC. This is a collaborative process, so we'll be working with different subject matter experts at the university to really bring in some integral expertise into the climate action planning process, in addition to the expertise we have at B&D and Interface. So here's a quick overview of the process. It starts with data collection, qualitative and quantitative. We look at hard numbers and guiding directives. We also gather perspectives on climate action solutions from specific groups through an online educational tool, the Climate Commitment Action Plan Survey, which will be highlighted later in today's presentation. Once we establish data baselines, we'll work together with a variety of UIC community members to evaluate initiatives that will support the climate commitments. From here, we'll develop a roadmap of these initiatives, model these initiatives through a variety of scenario testing to ensure solutions in the CCAP are realistic, achievable, and financially viable. Finally, we'll socialize our outcomes for your feedback in meetings like this and begin to organize the plan for implementation. As we work internally at UIC, we'll also consider a variety of driving factors locally, regionally, and nationally. We'll consider how the CCAP 2024 is connected to similar guiding directives that impact decision-making at UIC, because we want to embed this plan into strategic planning at the university. We don't want the Climate Commitment Action Plan to be seen as something separate, but embedded within decision-making. And I want to just thank you again for your time and involvement in this exciting and critical process at UIC. I'm going to hand it over to Andy now to talk about next steps. So thanks, and look forward to the work to come.
Thank you, Jillian. Right, I'm going to wrap up now and just go through a few things. I think hopefully I've mentioned enough times that we have these tools available online to have your voice heard. Please do go there. Short URL, go uic.edu/climate, easily findable. Here's just a screen grab of that page. When you get there, you'll have the opportunities to engage in a number of ways. The first is the survey. So this tool is kind of a multiple choice option. It lets you rank order where your priorities are and submit that in a structured way, a data set that we can use to drive our decision-making processes. Next, we have a sort of open-ended involvement form. So if you have something you want to share, a comment to make, a suggestion, or a gripe, I mean, bring it on. This is the place for that. You can share it there. You can also just submit your name and stay in touch that way. Or you can express interest in participating in a focus group. So that is our next step in terms of seeking voices. The tools will be open, those channels for incoming messages will be open, but over the course of the next 8 to 10 weeks, and possibly beyond, we're going to engage with 15 to 20 focus groups. Some of those will be subject matter experts from UIC, others will just be students, or any other community member that is interested in participating. Again, through our website, you can click a box and basically express your interest there. Now, this is all going to culminate next spring, February, March, April timeframe with a final draft plan. This will be available online, somewhere in the range of 50 to 100 pages, but highly visual, engaging. And at that point, we will post it and we will seek feedback. Basically public comment. We'll host another event like this to share what we came up with, and then we'll hold it open. So look forward to that too in the spring. And I believe that's what I have for you in terms of setting the stage. At this point, we will open it up for questions, input. We had questions submitted in advance. For those of you online in the Zoom, please use the Q&A function, not the chat function. And we have my colleague Elizabeth Ortner here in the room fielding questions from online. We also have a microphone in the room for those of you here in person. Please do step up and ask your question there. That way the feed will be picked up online also. If anyone needs the mic brought to them, just raise your hand and someone will bring it right over. Joining me are a few people to help answer these questions. I will ask you all to introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about what is important to you about this process that inspires you to participate. John, do you want to start?
Sure. Hello again. I'm John Coronado, and I'm the Vice Chancellor for Administrative Services at UIC. Sustainability, Andy's team works for me. It's one of my units. And we've been really focused in trying to put together a plan. I'm very much a planning and data and analytics guy, so I'm keenly interested in being able to chart a path towards success in meeting our climate commitments. And that's, since I've been here, that's what I've been pushing the team to help develop, so that we have a greater awareness of what the cost is, what the impacts, and how we can be successful in this endeavor. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe, and I'm a student leader at the Heritage Garden here at UIC. We work under the 7 Centers for Cultural Understanding and Social Change, and it's really been like my favorite part of college so far. We are a really unique program. I don't know any other university that has a student-led garden internship that's paid, that like the one that we have. We also work with the Field Museum and other community orgs in the city, different community farms, and it's been a really integral part of my college experience so far, and it's been really nice having like an experimental learning garden here on campus. So I think it's really important that we invest in programs like this. So thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Mariscalco. I carry the title of Associate Vice Chancellor of the Health Sciences for Academic Affairs, but many of you have known me because I sit in a lot of rooms. Because academic affairs crosses, particularly in the health science colleges, really crosses the gamut from education to research to healthcare delivery. So I am sitting at this table. Number one, I was invited, but number two, because we are well aware of climate and what healthcare does to climate and sustainability. It's 9% of all admission problems are from healthcare delivery. So I've been in this, I'm not an expert in this space, but I have been invited into this space for about the last 15 years at various organizations that I belong to. Therefore, the work that we do here, both at the healthcare delivery side, as well as in the rest of the health science colleges, is we impact, and it's impacted by climate, including how people live and how people are ill. We've talked about the concept of social justice, touches on social justice. Andy talked about the fact that we've done this in the environmental impact and the communities that it affects, and those are the communities who are the most affected by climate change and by environmental toxins. The chancellor is left, and she could wax a lot more than I can, and so we see this as our mission, and it's an important piece. So thanks for inviting us. And I won't speak for my folks who are doing the healthcare delivery side. They're probably online, but it's something that they've been working on also for a number of years. Thanks.
Thanks, Michelle. And I don't see anyone up at the mic in the room. Elizabeth, anything coming in online we should address first?
Regarding the net zero water, what is the plan to use gray water? Does it rebuild it from gray water?
You may need a microphone.
Oh, I can repeat the question. The question has to do with the use of gray water, which is a term which means basically water that has been used, but not for toilets, put it that way. So it's it could be reused. It could be reused as irrigation or for toilets. There's a lot of opportunities for gray water out there. Anyway, sorry, the question again was, what plans do we have for incorporating gray water? I have some thoughts. It cuts back to that challenge we have with water use, which is that it's really inexpensive. here in Chicago and copious. And the cost that it takes to implement gray water systems needs to be looked at closely in terms of what else we could spend that on. I can share that we have pursued and considered specific grants related to gray water usage, and we'll continue to do so. So it's certainly something on our radar, but we are always looking at that cost benefit. So.
Okay, next one is what would it take to build more bike commuting infrastructure at UIC? Specifically, bike valet, secure indoor biking, parking, an ideal for giving car drop-offs a place to go as if they were bike lanes, as if there's not bike lanes.
Yes. Part of our Bike-Friendly USA standards is maintaining the high level of commitment that we have historically for bike infrastructure. Also put a plug in for the Divvy Bike student discount and the Divvy for All option. Check that out on our website also. So I'm starting with what we already do, and I'm proud of it, but there's a long way to go. Indoor parking, I'll just take that one. We should consider that for all new buildings. It's not going to work everywhere, but it will work in some.
I would add that with respect to like indoor parking for bike storage, things like that, that is a consideration when we look at LEED design and LEED Gold, LEED Platinum type considerations. So that's typically reviewed. And the other thing I'd like to make sure everyone's aware of is that we work closely with the Chicago Department of Transportation regarding bike lanes and getting protected bike lanes in place. You may have seen some on West Campus along Polk Street. The city plans to install protected bike lanes. These are where actual curbs in place so cars can't intrude on those along Harrison Street and Halsted Street as well. And that's where we get a lot of complaints in the Halsted Street drop-off. So we are trying to work together with the city. We hear the voices of people, concerned about bike safety along those areas, and we partner with the city on those efforts.
Hi, my name is Jonas. I'm with the College of Engineering. I just wanted to comment on the indoor bike storage. We are anxiously awaiting the completion of the new computer science building, CDRLC, under construction on Taylor Street. We are submitting a grant that's due Friday, our initial proposal for indoor bike storage. We have a storage space secured inside the building. We are going to ask for some monies from the sustainability grant that we learned of recently, and we'll be submitting that on Friday. We're not going to have lots of spaces, but we'll do our best to accommodate as many bikes as we can safely and securely.
Great, thank you, Jonas. Appreciate that.
Hello, Rob Dixon. I'm serving as the interim vice chancellor and vice provost for student affairs, and thanks for the presentation today. I've learned a lot. One aspect of future plans, I'm wondering in what way solar is going to be incorporated, say, in new buildings. I'd seen the excellent expansion of solar power in sort of the Civil War quad when that was renovated, and just wondering how that factors in to future plans.
So again, for new buildings and for major renovations, we consider solar for rooftops. When we do roof replacements, we consider solar as part of that project as well. And a lot of it boils down to the cost benefit, the available cash to fund it as part of the project. And then I think, as you heard, because we're real constrained from a real estate standpoint as an urban campus, we're looking at off-site renewable opportunities, where we can do a power purchase agreement, what we call an indirect power purchase agreement, to have a developer install renewables on a large parcel of property, and we buy the energy off that property, and we can enter into a 20 or 30-year relationship along those lines. And we're also partnering with Urbana and Springfield on some of these initiatives for either large-scale solar renewable on university property or off university property.
I would jump in on that also from a building technology perspective. If the goal is to reduce energy consumption, oftentimes, particularly in Chicago, we're better served taking the funding that would go toward rooftop solar and putting it into building efficiency. We can save more money, save more energy with the money we have that way. Which isn't to say we shouldn't do solar. Of course we should. We should just take that kind of cost benefit.
It's not big enough. Roofs aren't big enough.
Yeah. So there's some parameters to check out, but.
Can I ask a question? So let's talk about, you talk about the effect of concrete. We're in the concrete jungle and we do better than most places. So talk about some of the work that we're doing, have done, and continue to do to decrease that in addition to what you've already talked about. There's obvious green spaces. What are you doing on the roofs to make that better? You need to talk about that because I don't think people really realize that.
Yeah, it's true. Green rooftops are a phenomenal development in building technology over the last, I would say 10, 20 years, although in some parts of the world, the last 10, 20 centuries. But the basic concept is gardens get planted on the roof. They absorb moisture. They have plants growing on them. They cool the building in the summer and they insulate it in the winter, and they provide habitat. We have remarkable rooftop plantings at UIC. If anyone is up in any of the high rises, encourage you to just peek your head out the window and look at those rooftop gardens. They're really phenomenal. I can't resist throwing out this acronym that my college energy policy professor made me memorize, which is TANSTOFL. There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. When you put a rooftop garden up, the roof has to be able to support it. The surface under the garden has to be able to withstand it. And then there has to be maintenance for it. So it's great where it works. It doesn't work everywhere.
Hello, I'm Ari Parsons. I'm a student, and I was just wondering, is there any initiatives to educate students about recycling? Because I notice a lot of our classmates do not know what plastics to recycle. So the recycling bins will say plastic, but it won't say like 2, 3, 5. Is there any plans to initiate something like that?
There is now. Thank you for your contribution. That's really good input. And we have made efforts with signage at our recycling stations. Signs also need to be updated. They take maintenance and sometimes they fall off. But that is, again, a plug for our outreach tools. That's great input and feedback. And if you don't mind, can we quote you in our plan? Yes.
And
okay,
maybe
good.
you'll lead it.
Yeah. You heard Andy mention about the recyclables and contamination, and oftentimes we get turned away at the recycling center and it ends up in the landfill. And so we recognize that that's a challenge, and we've been talking about how to do an education campaign in that regard. And not only that, but also can we get composting areas stationed throughout the campus, similar to the Big Bellies. I've been aware that they now have Big Belly composting stations. I think that would help in a tremendous way as well.
Hi, my name is Julia Kim Cohen, and I'm a teaching sustainability fellow from the Department of Psychology. And I'm really grateful to be at an institution that cares so much about this issue and wants to educate our students about sustainability. I have 2 somewhat related questions. I was wondering first about the role of fossil fuel investments and whether financially UIC has already divested from fossil fuel companies and banks that support fossil fuel companies, because we know that climate change is fueled by fossil fuels and new pipelines and gas, natural gas and oil. My other question is about, well, maybe I'll start with that one first.
Thank you for that question. The short answer is no. We do use natural gas for our boilers, for production in our generators and stuff, to generate electricity and steam and hot water. But as you heard Andy say, our central utility plants are aged, and when we're very close to this point where we need to recapitalize all that equipment. And I view this as an opportune time to look at other sources, fuel sources that can be part of that investment. So I'm eagerly waiting to hear what our consultants say in that regard, and when we might be able to do some of that.
Yes, I guess I was also just wondering about the financial investments in terms of our endowment, and whether our stocks, equities, things like that actually support fuel companies and the banks that support them.
I'm sorry, I don't have the information to be able to answer that question.
Okay. And then my second question is about the uprising of young people around the country and in other countries who are calling for a climate emergency. And there are many groups around the country who are asking President Biden to call for a climate emergency, which would allow him to make executive actions to really act on this problem, which is becoming worse year by year. To what degree might UIC as an institution consider supporting this initiative in terms of declaring a climate emergency and supporting that effort?
Do you want to talk about
Yeah, that's a great.
Talk about that a little bit.
Joe, do you have anything from student?
Yeah, I know that the students would really want to be a part of that and would rally behind that. I know that students in the past have been a part of lots of demonstrations and protests here at UIC, and I think that a lot of the discussions that we have with the 7 cultural centers are around environmental injustice and the action that needs to be implemented as soon as possible. And we even see it in the gardens, with how different last season was versus this season. We see it during the quad reconstruction of our monarch habitat garden being lost. We didn't have nearly as many monarchs as we do this year because we got that back, and because we have those even just that one space back for them. So we definitely see it, and I think that as a representative of the Heritage Garden, we would stand behind that. So,
can I say something?
Oh, yeah.
So Andy showed a slide that had 3 missions on it.
Yeah.
Andy, will you tell us what those are again?
Sure.
I think it's really important. Thank you for bringing this up. I think it's really important. We can protest and we can walk and we can talk, but unless we put actions behind it, it's just yammering, right? So I think one of the first things was lead with action. And I think that's what this is, right? So we're asking you all to come with us for those actions. Our colleague who talks about putting the plastic in the right spot, it's everything from the personal to the large. So us as an organization, we have to do the work. The leaders of the organization have to do the work around which energy source, how are we going to do it? That's why we have the experts. We've asked B&D to come help us. What can we achieve, right? What's reasonable for us to achieve in the context of the dollars that we have? If I'm saying something wrong, you'll tell me, okay? That's a really important piece, even though it sounds really far away. The reality is you can only do what you can do. And yes, we all are passionate, or else we wouldn't be here today. This is the group that's already committed, right? The question then gets into what can we do next everything from that end all the way down to the personal. And the personal is as simple as, what do you do with your food scraps? What do you do with your plastic? Can you help us do that? And we as a society don't think along those lines. Or we do, but we don't go a little far enough. So I would say that I think that's what this is. I hear you, I agree, and I absolutely agree with all of our students and all of our young people say we got to do something. We agree. The issue is what do we do when, in the context of all of our missions? Because we have multiple missions here. We all admit that. That's why we're in the room. So thanks. Thank you for letting me get on my soapbox. I appreciate it.
Well said, Michelle, and yes, you didn't say anything wrong. And I would just add that, we can help in establishing policy and procedures and getting funding for these big initiatives and kind of chart the course, as I said, and come up with the interim milestones and show progress. But we need our community to also be responsive to some of this and to take personal ownership in a lot of what we do on a day-to-day basis.
I'm going to wrap up the public-facing.
Can Joe say one thing?
Yeah,
please,
I think it's
Joe.
also the support from the administration as well. Like, there's a lot of these discussions that happen on campus and at the cultural centers, and all of this is not new, but I think like it's really the higher ups and that can support us and like really come down from UH and sit in these discussions with us and give the funding and stand behind. So yeah, just want to put that.
Great. Thank you. I'll wrap up this sort of formal part, but we do have some food in the back for people that are here, pizza lunch. I want to stress too that this is really just the beginning of the open avenues for communication. Encourage everyone to use the tools. I intentionally brought up our QR code here. Those online can click through. Again, our website's easy to find. go.uic.edu/climate. Let's see, quick plug for Transformational Scholarship here on campus. This picture was taken at Gallery 400, currently showing Earthly Visions, Images of Climate Change. Tonight, I'm going to go to the Climates of Inequality, Stories of Environmental Justice, hosted by the Social Justice Initiative here on campus. Encourage everyone to look into that. I do want to make some thank yous, certainly to my team. That's Matt, Chris, Liz, Mihalo in the back, please wave. Also, Sherry Kristachevich from OVCAS Communications. Everyone on the panel, Chancellor Miranda, and again, thank you in advance, that's TIA, to everyone who is submitting ideas, concepts, and survey responses online. Thanks.
Thank you. Good job, Anne.